All right, this is Dan Meehan for Fight News Australia, and today we have undefeated kickboxer Charles Joyner, who's heading to Rome to take on Mattia Faraoni for the ISKA cruiserweight world title on June 17th. Charles, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good, thank you. Getting ready, so getting prepared.
Awesome. Well, before we sort of get into all that, I always like to ask this when I interview someone for the first time. But for those who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in martial arts?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, started pretty late. Sort of started training just before I turned 21, and didn't really get into it with any, you know, um, with any intention or desire to actually fight. Just had enjoyed watching fighting in the UFC in particular, and like the rise of Conor McGregor and that sort of era, and just thought, oh, I'm just gonna give it a try and just learn a bit. And then as things were progressing, I was just getting better, and then um, had a fight and was doing well, and just sort of snowballed from there. And then 6 years later, here we are fighting for a world title.
Absolutely, and yeah, he was obviously a key training partner in the past for Tyson, Pedro, and Tuivasa and those sorts of guys. So, how did you
Yeah,
sort of find your way into that sort of stable, and what's it like training with them?
yeah, it's good. I mean, they're both great athletes, so it's always tricky sparring them because you're training with some of the best in the world, so it's obviously going to be challenging, but it's good because it forces you to level up. But it was really through Ethos Performance that um, I sort of started working with them, because they were both working with Mir Orney there, and I think Ty. It was when he was preparing for the Spivak. Actually, no, I started sparring with Tyson first, just because he was making his comeback after his knee surgery, and we were just getting some rounds in. And then he brought Ty one time, and um, and then I just helped him prepare for that Spivak camp, which and then he happened to fight Stefan Struve. I think it was the fight after that. So obviously being quite tall, I helped him with that one as well. So yeah, the good
Awesome, and
experiences.
for sure, and yeah, you've obviously since made the move to the UK. So, tell us a little bit about that decision and sort of how that's been so far.
Yeah, it's been good. I made the decision originally because, well, it was during the lockdowns in the second lockdown in Australia, and obviously Sydney were pretty strict with it, and I just didn't really know what was going to be the outcome or when things were going to open up. And I'm not sort of the sort of person that likes to sit and just wait around for opportunities to come. I like to make opportunities myself. So I was thinking what I could do, and I'm a British citizen, so I couldn't. The government couldn't really stop me from leaving the country to return to the place where I was born. So I thought that it just makes sense to come over here because the UK was opened up. So it was September that I got over here, and yeah, just was training, was trying to get some fights when I first got here, but I was just struggling. I think because no one knew me and I had a good record, and then I just kept on pushing, and then this year it's opened up a lot more. I sort of had a few fights, and well, I've had two, and made a bit more of a name for myself, and then the momentum's building a little bit now, and the opportunities are starting to come.
Absolutely, and you're training out of the Four Corners gym over there, of course. So, how
Yeah.
did you decide on them? Like, what's how did you end up there?
Yeah. So when I was coming over here, I was just not really sure what I was going to do. I was going to come and wing it a bit, and just when before I came over, I messaged Ross Pearson, because obviously from the UK and now in Australia, and I just said anywhere that he recommended, and he recommended Four Corners. He's friends with John Gillies, who's the coach and the owner there. So he got me in contact with John, and he said they had dorms there to go and stay in, and I just had a few days in London, and then when I first arrived, and then went up to Liverpool, just stayed in the dorms for a week, I enjoyed the training. Good bunch of lads that were there, really good training partners, good coaching, good sessions. So I ended up just staying in the dorm. So for the first 7 months, I was just living in the dorms. And when I say dorms, it was literally just bunk beds, above the gym. So I was just training, sleeping, eating, and then just repeating that. But so that was really good, just to immerse myself in it straight away, fully.
Absolutely. And how does the standard differ over there from what you would get back here in Australia?
I think, like, I sort of see. I think that the passion for MMA is the same. I'd just say that it's just a little bit more developed here. Like, I think there's just more, and probably also because there's more training partners. There are more gyms. You're closer to Europe. You're closer to the States. So there's just more opportunity to go around and get a bit of a different look. I think obviously, Australia and New Zealand, like we're coming up and it's developing. But I'd say it's just the training and the coaching is just a little bit further along here. And I think like the amateur level was just a little bit higher, and then you've just got loads of high level pros here. And that's not to say that Australia's not getting there. It's definitely getting there, and it's going to be. I honestly believe it will be the UK and Australia will be sort of at the top of the game in a few years to come. And obviously, I'm probably biased because that's the two places that I've lived in, I've trained in. But it's just seeing that the passion and the development and how much goes into it. It's it is good over here.
All right, and you obviously, like you mentioned earlier, you've reeled off 2 wins in quick succession since making the move. So, tell us a little bit about those fights and what you took away from fighting over there.
Yeah. So the first they've both been at 100 kilos because I was just struggling to find fights, and I'd say my weight class is middleweight, and that's sort of the weight class that I'm aiming for, and that when I get to the bigger organisations that I want to be fighting in. But yeah, I was just taking any fights that I could get. The first one was against, pretty experienced Romanian. He had a good knockout record, had a big record as well. And so I hadn't fought for a while. I hadn't fought since June, and that was in February. So I was a little bit nervous heading into it. Felt like a little bit rusty, but because I just wasn't sure. Obviously, I'd made a move, new team, new sort of situation. I wasn't sure, what the progress had really been like, because it's hard to tell before a fight. But I was really happy with the performance. Didn't really get hit. Just pieced him up for 2 rounds, and then, he went down with a leg injury, but I think he sort of was looking for a way out a little bit. And then the second one was against sort of a big prospect here he was 47-0 going into the fight, and he was just someone else that no one else really wanted to fight. And I think the show, I'd messaged the show saying that I'll fight combat fight series in London, and I said, I'll fight anyone between these weights. I just said 90 to 100, and they came back with this guy, probably thinking I wouldn't take it because no one else, I don't think, wanted to fight him. And I took it, and I think that's one that got my name out there a little bit more, because he came out hard in the first round trying to finish me. I just stayed composed, and then took him into deep waters in the 4th round and finished him. And I think that surprised a few people, because he was such a big prospect, had such a big record, had been unbeaten throughout his whole career, and I think people were scared to fight him. And he was a bit of a finishing machine as well. So that one sort of established me a bit more on the UK scene.
Absolutely, and this time out, it looks like you're fighting at 88.5 kegs. So you're a pretty big boy from what I've seen there. So do you have to suck down much to get down to there?
No, like it's funny. Everyone's surprised when I say what sort of weights I fight at, but I really don't find it too hard. When I go down a bit lower, I work with the fight dietitian, Geordie Sullivan, and he's really good. And I mean, he had me. I mean, this week, because it's fight week, I'm on a lot less, because obviously you're just trying to get the weight down and then ward loading and stuff like that. But I mean, the weeks leading up to this, I've been eating heaps of food and the weight's just been coming off nicely. So it's not too much of a struggle, and I don't do too much of a cut compared to, other people. I think it's just because I'm 6'8", but I've just got really long legs. So it's just, I don't know, maybe I've got hollow bones or something, but they've held up so far. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And this time out, you're of course fighting for the ISKA world title. So, tell us about what winning a prestigious title like that would mean to you.
I mean, like it's important, definitely, but and it will mean a lot to me. But it still just feels like another step on the journey. Like it's not the be all and end all. Like I'll win this, I'll be happy about it, but then I'm going to be just thinking about, what's next and planning the next thing. Obviously trying to enjoy the moment. Like I'm pretty good at enjoying the moment when I've won the fight and sort of reflecting on it for a couple of days and appreciating it. But then I always just like to keep active and keep the momentum going. So I think it will just be one of those moments where I think, just reflect and think, oh, I've done pretty well considering I've only been training for 6 years, and then just think about what I can do in the next 6 years and plan for the future. So it's good as well. It's a good platform. The opponent is pretty well known in Italy, and supposedly going to be streamed on DAZN as well, which is obviously a good platform to be on. So there'll be eyes on it, which is always good when you're fighting, because the more eyes on you, the more opportunities you can get. But yeah, it's just another step on the journey for me, to be honest.
Yeah, and of course the opponent there is Mattia Faraoni. So how do you feel about the matchup and what he brings to the table?
I mean, he looks good. He looks sharp. He throws some flashy stuff. He's obviously good, because he wouldn't have been built up so much if he wasn't good. But I also just don't think he's fought anyone on my level. I think I've fought tougher opponents in the past. But obviously, I'm not looking past them. I'm not complacent. I've been preparing and can feel like I'm in the best shape that I possibly could be in. But I think it's a good matchup for me, because he likes to play the long game, as in like sort of fight from distance. But normally when you try and fight from distance with me, it's a tough one, because that's my forte. So I think, to be honest, I'm gonna drag him into deep waters again, and I think he'll crumble a little bit under the pressure, especially when he realizes that I'm there to fight. I'm not just there to make up the numbers. I'm not there for his show. It's I'm there to win and progress and be the best that I can be. So yeah.
Absolutely, and in the longer term, you've sort of referred there as this being like one step on your journey. So, assuming, of course, that you do take home the chocolates on June 17th, what's the ultimate goal for you? Where do you want to get to in your career?
Well, the ultimate goal is the UFC, and to be a UFC champion, and that's sort of been part of the reason to move over here, was to work on the MMA as well. So I've been working on the MMA in the background while I've been preparing for these fights, and just waiting for the right time to make my debut. But that's the goal, really. So I'm just trying to build as much experience as possible, build my name as much as possible, so then I can just get to those heights and take full advantage of it. But yeah, that's and I say like the UFC champion, but because to me that means you're the best fighter in the world. But really, that the goal is to be the best fighter in the world, and just to be recognised as one of the best. So that's sort of how I, even when I'm going into a fight, I'm not thinking about specifically who I'm fighting or the fight. It's more just about being the best version of myself and and improving as much as possible, and yeah, just trying to become one of the best.
Right, and you say you've only been training for around 6 years. So, like, how much of that has been MMA? Has that always been sort of the goal from the start?
Um, it was always in the back of my mind, and always something I thought I would probably do. But I've only really been working on the MMA for a year. But so I had a good 5 years of just pure kickboxing, really, and progressed pretty quickly there, I'd say. And I'm just going to do the same now with the MMA and the grappling. So I feel like I've come on nicely so far. But like I don't think I've got any. I didn't come into, like, when I first started training kickboxing, I didn't come into it being like a really talented person or being able to fight really well. So all the progress I've made has just been through discipline and hard work. So I know I can do that with one thing, and I've done that, and I've got myself to a good level. So that's just the mindset that I'm going to apply to the MMA now and the grappling. So, yeah.
All right, and when do you think the right time might be to sort of to make that transition over to MMA? Is that something that you're sort of thinking of imminently, or more down the track?
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to by the end of the year for sure. It's. I mean, this year I've just sort of been seeing what's coming. Like, I mean, the kickboxing opportunities have been coming up, and I've been taking those and progressing with that. But yeah, if all things map out for it well, by the end of the year, I make the MMA debut. That's the plan in my head, anyway.
Awesome, and obviously in the shorter term, you've got an assignment ahead of you on June 17th. So I've seen you refer to your fights as the Joyner Show before. So for those who haven't seen you fight before, what can viewers expect when they tune in?
I'd say I'm a smart fighter where I'm defensively sound, and I just like to put on a clinic. Like, I don't like being too scrappy with it. I just like making it look easy, so that when people, after the fights, people are just like, oh, that easy. You didn't look on your level. Like, that's how I like to fight. Obviously, sometimes you do have to dig deep, and I do enjoy the wars as well, and getting stuck in. Like the last one, I had to dig deep at the start a little bit, and then I could turn into the Joyner Show. But it's obviously when I'm training and in preparation, I'm aiming for a clinic, and just aiming for perfection, just trying to make it look as good as possible.
Awesome, and before I let you go, Charles, do you have any sponsors or anyone you'd like to shout out? I'll hand the reins over to you.
Oh yeah, just for this camp, really big shout out to Four Corners in Liverpool, and then been training as well at TFT in Sunderland. John Gillies, the coach at Four Corners, and Andrew Fisher at in Sunderland, and then training partners Justin Burlinson, Jamie Bates have been my main ones, really. And in terms of sponsors over here, I've just had Just Float, who've been helping me get my float tank therapy in, and then just at home, got Three Kings, Evolution Gym, Ethos Performance I work with as well, Geordie Sullivan, the fight dietitian, Ginnan Sports Group, Proform Physio, City Cave, just all helping me on the journey. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, Charles, thank you so much for stopping by, and all the best on June 17th.
Oh, awesome.